So after a quick detour, and then maybe another one in the future, but I'll talk more about that at the end, let's get back on the Candyman train with Farewell to the Flesh from 1995. This was directed by Bill Condon and written by Ran Ravitch and Mark Kruger, based on a story by Clive Barker, of course. Tony Todd comes back as Candyman, and we have Kelly Rowan, William O'Leary, and Lambert herself, Veronica Cartwright, joining him. And I often say that people can be judged by how they know actors, like what do they associate with them first. For example, Ian McKellen, Sir Ian McKellen, should I say. If you think either Gandalf or Magneto, that's pretty cool. If you think Coronation Street, one, you're probably British, but aside from that, I'm very confused. So Veronica Cartwright is Lambert. That is always going to be the connection. If you don't agree with that, I don't think we can be friends. But still, this is not as deep, I think, as the first one. Like, when I rewatched it, I was like, wow, this socioeconomic stuff is really interesting, and how, we use urban legends to deal with things we don't want to. Storytelling has existed through years as like fables. None of that's really here. A lot of the stuff here is very surface. Tends to be families are messed up, slavery was bad, wasn't it? People do awful things. That was about it. It was very much backstory and this kind of familial connection, which is fine. Like, I don't think this is an awful film. It's just not as deep and nuanced. And following how much I enjoyed the first one, it's very upsetting, and the fact that it's so underwhelming. But even from the start, I knew that we were probably going to get a bit of a bad time. I mean, okay, we have Purcell being a wonderful bridge between the two and also catching people up. If people didn't watch the first one for some weird reason, I don't know why you watch a sequel first, but you do you, I guess. But if people didn't know, there was this brief thing of who Daniel Robitaille is, the whole history of Helen Lyle, and the fact that he's profited off tragedy, because he's the kind of person who'd do that. And this lack of belief, he teases Candyman to come out. And his death is probably almost as brutal as Burke's. It was pretty good, and I was like, that's a really good start. But then we don't get much of that. We get a couple of moments later, but it's quite underwhelming. We also have some cheap sort of jump scare moments. Those are never a good sign. That means that you are just trying to elicit the response without earning it. But there is a lot about this film I do enjoy, as much as I've said all of that. I do like this delve back into Daniel's history. I do like, not that I like seeing what happened to him, but, I liked seeing the explanation. And even the fact the kid was like, oh, the honey, oh, he's the Candyman. Even that, just the origin of the name. I don't like these retcon things where all of a sudden like, oh, the power's in something else, that's why he's in mirrors. It's a little over-explained on that side. I'd have been quite happy leaving the why does he come when you call him as a bit of a mystery. You can explain who the man was that became the legend, that became this spectre. But the whole thing with the mirror, like I say, it's just, why? Why bother? It just robs it of any impact. And the fact in the first one, it's the idea of belief in him gives him power. Well, not actually. It's hard to really praise a film that just kind of almost ruins elements of the first one. I don't know, I can't remember if I've actually watched Day of the Dead, so I might have a similar reaction next week where it's even worse, or in a couple of weeks, but like I say, I'll get to that in the end. But there's so much that, yeah, I can praise. Like, I keep saying, like, there is good stuff, and then going, but apart from this. The performance, again, from Tony Todd, the texture of his voice, that seductive tone, even though it's his family, and I'm not saying that it's meant to be incestuous at all, but that seductive kind of, be my victim idea, that he did so well for Helen, from the sort of more romantic side, to, and I say romantic because that's how he sees it, it's not really, it's abusive, it's power, it's wrong. But in this it is, like, we are blood and you should be with me, blah blah blah. It's a similar approach to a different relationship type. Maybe a little uncomfortable, but, again, it's not real. He's a guy who lives in mirrors. And Veronica Cartwright gets one of the best lines in the film as Octavia, is the fact that we leave life as we enter it, kind of thing. We're naked, blind, and covered in stuff. You can fill in that for yourself. But there's so much that I want to say, that was great, but it's hard to. I think one of the things that I would have really loved in the flashbacks, because when in the first one it's like it was always you, Helen, and we see like the murals and things like that. If Virginia Madsen could have played Caroline in this, the old version of Caroline, not the little child at the end, but the one that he had a thing for and was killed for. If Virginia Madsen could have been in that role, that would have been amazing, because then it would have been It Was Always You, Helen. The actress doesn't even look that much like Virginia Madsen that you can kind of say, well, maybe she wasn't available and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't look like even an attempt to link those two. This is what I'm saying, like, there's so much here that I can see potential, and it's just wasted. But I do want to end on, like I say, always like to end on some funny things. So first of all, little Caroline, I briefly mentioned her, but yeah, she's adorable, and I love that end scene. And I do wonder now, because she got to 4, is this like Beetlejuice, where in a musical they made this happen, and I think it's been folded into canon now? It wasn't really explicitly said in the film, in the first one, but do you have to say it all at once? Do you have to say it 5 times in a row? Or do you get to 4, and the next time Caroline says Candyman into a mirror, even if it's 5 years later, is that it? These kind of things that I question. I think the one thing I will end on is the amount of times they say Annie in this film. All I can think of is Smooth Criminal. So I was thinking it in the back of my head. But yeah, so Candyman Fell to the Flesh, it's probably a 6 out of 10. It's not the best sequel, it's not an amazing film, but it's not awful. You know, I didn't feel like I absolutely wasted my time. There were good moments, it's just that they were few and far between. So not next time, in a couple of weeks' time, because something else has come up, I will be talking about Day of the Dead, and hopefully the week after that I can finally do the 2021 sort of requel thing. But who knows? I might have another thing, so it might be every other week Candyman. It's fine. Like I said, I'm allowing myself to be flexible. But next week is a good one, because I finally got like a sort of paid promotion thing. But you'll have to wait until then to see exactly what it is, and I hope you'll enjoy my thoughts on it. But thank you very much for letting me talk about not an amazing sequel, and until next time, as always, take care.